Hey Jags, welcome back to Jag TV. The interview that I have for you guys this week is honestly so beneficial to anyone at any point in their college career, whether they are a freshman just starting college, a senior who's going to graduate in a year, or somebody who just graduated. I think this interview is so helpful for anyone at any point. I did an interview with South Alabama graduate Tara Principe. She graduated a year ago and then jumped right into her post-grad big girl job 4 days after graduation. So I personally learned so much from her doing this interview, and I think anyone else listening or watching can learn so much from her as well. I honestly think that this is quite possibly the best and most valuable interview that I've done so far during this whole interview series. And I really hope anyone else watching can also get a lot of value from it. I have 2 more years until I graduate, and I'm already freaking out about post-grad life and getting a job and getting an internship, and I'm so scared for all of it. And I just can't imagine what somebody who just graduated into the current world state, or somebody who's graduating in a year, what they must be feeling and their concerns that they may have. So I really hope this interview can help maybe calm some nerves or help people figure out their life plan a little bit better. But I absolutely love this interview so much, and I hope it can be beneficial to any of you guys as well. So let's just get into the interview, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us here. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Tara Principe. I am the Marketing and Communications Director at Distinguished Young Women, and I am a South Alabama alum.
So what year did you graduate, and what was your degree in?
I graduated from South last May, so May of 2019, with a degree in communication and a concentration in broadcast journalism.
So what activities were you involved in when you attended South?
I tried to stay super busy all the time. So I was involved in kind of a lot. The main two being Greek life. I was a member of Alpha Omicron Pi sorority, and I also was involved in Jag Media. So started out on The Prowl, our radio station, with the show on there, and then I ended up becoming our marketing and promotions director, which got me involved in kind of all of the medias in Jag Media, which was really cool to be kind of a member of all of them at the same time. And then I was involved in like little stuff here and there. I was a member of Mortarboard, which is one of the senior honor societies at South. I helped start Dance Marathon at South, which was super fun. Our first year was either 2016 or 2017. So like little activities here and there, different fundraisers, anything to stay busy for sure.
Mm-hmm. So then what was your first job after you graduated, and how did you get that job?
My first job is the job that I'm actually still in now. I started as the marketing and communications director for Distinguished Young Women 4 days after graduation. So I didn't really have a break at all. It's a nonprofit that is national, but our headquarters are here in Mobile. And I actually got the job through my internship. So I interned with them my last semester of my senior year. It was an internship for class credit at South. And during that time, our marketing director put in her 2 weeks, and they ended up hiring me, which was very fortunate, worked out really well, and kind of gave me like a sneak peek at the job before I actually had to accept the job offer. So the internship was a huge part of that.
So you said you're a marketing director,
Yes.
and your degree is in communications.
Yes.
So do you think you should have done a marketing degree, or do you think it matters, or what would you say to that?
So the cool thing about having a degree in communication is you get kind of a little bit of everything. Like everybody has to take that one writing class that gives you, a little bit of insight into kind of the different fields of communication. We all have to take a web design class where you get kind of the ins and outs of running a website. Most of my experience definitely did come from my position as the marketing and promotions director for Jag Media. that is definitely what gave me my qualifications for this job. I think about it all the time. I probably should have done strategic communication. That would have been perfect for what I'm doing now. But everything works out for a reason. I think a communications degree is really flexible, so it still helped me for sure.
So then in the long run, do you think it really matters, or is it really just about having the piece of paper?
I think it's all about like the experiences that you choose to take in college. So you could have any degree, but if you choose the right extracurriculars to get the experience, I think experience kind of trumps your classes.
Mhm.
So even if you get involved in clubs, like I think that can help you a lot more than what classes you take, because everybody takes those. That doesn't set you apart as much as kind of going the extra mile.
What was your minor in?
My minor was general management, which was super helpful. Having some kind of like business classes and management classes, I would always recommend to somebody, just because it prepares you for any job. So it wasn't like a super specific kind of 1 point minor. It really prepared me for kind of anything.
And what does a marketing director do? Are you doing like social media, or what kind of work are you doing?
So, especially because I work for a nonprofit, my job is very fluid. We have over 400 programs, and we only have 5 staff members in the national office. So, my job can definitely go outside of like the usual description of a marketing director sometimes. Um, my main responsibilities are things like our social media, running our website, making all of our digital updates there, and then doing all of our press and communicating with news outlets, and getting any media relations done. So anything that kind of has to do with our branding, our messaging, and our visuals is all kind of my responsibility.
Since you got your job directly from your internship, I'm sure you'd say very important, but how important do you think getting an internship is?
I would always say very important, even if it's not something like my position where you get the job straight out of it. I think it's so necessary to experience what your field will actually be like before you decide to go into it, because you could start doing that internship and then realize that you hate that field. So getting some real hands-on experience, um, way more helpful than completing a paper in class. You can only learn so much from a textbook. So I would say getting an internship, getting a little bit of experience, super important.
How different was your real job from your internship that you had there?
Um, Pretty different. It's I've learned this even just from having interns since I came into the position. Um, Not to say you can only trust them with so much, but there's so much of my job that I really have to do myself, that I just can't hand off to an intern. So a lot of the things that I did while I was interning were kind of busy work and like the social media and the more fun stuff. And then once I got into my job, I had to deal with the nitty gritty of things, and, having a bunch of deadlines and having to redo things 1,000 times. I wasn't just the proofreader intern. I was creating all of our content. So it was definitely a lot harder once I started in my position.
How would somebody go about actually getting the internship?
So South has an awesome setup for internships within the communications department. Megan Sparks is the internship coordinator. And before I decided to intern with DYW, I always knew that I could just go to her and say, hey, these are my interests. This is what I'm trying to do. And she knows kind of what internships South generally works with that would be a good fit for that. So that's always great. And then a lot of websites and a lot of businesses, you can just email them and say, hey, I'm looking to intern. Do you guys take interns? I get people reaching out to me all the time like that. So just shooting your shot and kind of seeing if they'll take you or not is always a good start.
Mm-hmm. I've sent my fair share of emails that got no response. So,
Oh, same. I sent so many emails, job applications, internship applications when I was in my senior year. And you just kind of have to get used to putting it out there and not really expecting much in return. And then it feels even better when you do get a response.
I've also found LinkedIn to be a good resource, but I don't know if that works for everyone.
Yes, things like LinkedIn, and even, websites like ZipRecruiter and things like that. There's always new job postings, and people don't always post to the same websites. So you might find a job on one that isn't on another one.
Did you find it easier or more difficult transitioning then from your college life into your work life?
It was a transition for sure, going from college life to work life. I thought it would be easy since I kind of had already started part time in my job before going full time after graduation. But even just the adjustment of not being on campus and not having, people around you all the time. I lived on campus all 4 years. So I was so used to having kind of like a group of people near me or a roommate, or I lived in my sorority house. There were always people around. And then I went into this working life where I went to work, I came home, I cooked dinner, I went to bed. So it was really hard for me at first, to be honest. I did not adjust super well to adult life in the beginning. I got really stressed. I got really kind of introverted, which is not me at all. Um, and I had to really like reevaluate what I was doing with my time off of work. Don't take work home with you. If you have the option not to, I think that was the hardest thing about adjusting, is I was so used to, when you're in college, you have homework and you have tests and you study, and when you leave class, that doesn't mean your classwork is over. With work, when you leave work, it can be over. You can put it away and go do things that make you happy in your personal time. So figuring out that schedule, I think, was like the hardest part of adjusting.
So you think the social factor was more difficult for you than the actual work factor?
Yes, yes. Letting work kind of become my 24/7 um, was not good for me. So keeping that social aspect and remembering that I don't have people around all the time. So I do have to make plans and like go the extra mile to see people and do things that make me happy outside of work, was really important to remember.
How long did it take you to really start to find that balance?
I think it honestly took me until like the holidays. So I started my job in our busiest season over the summer. So I was just super 100% work all the time for basically the entire summer. And then between summer and like November was when I realized that what I was doing wasn't working. And then kind of by the holidays, I started to really get comfortable with what I was doing, figure out something that worked for me, and start actually being happy after work.
So then what do you like best and least about post-grad life?
best the best thing about post grad life for me, I would say, is just having the flexibility of, now that I've figured it out, kind of having my own schedule. My weekends are totally my own. I don't have to worry about something for a club that I'm involved in that's taking up an entire Saturday, or homework and tests. And when you're in college, you kind of have this, especially if you're a working student in college, you have to balance work, school, social life. And so being able to take out that school aspect and just having like work and me makes everything 1,000 times easier. The thing that I like the least about post-grad life is probably missing that social aspect. When you're in college, there's kind of always something going on. So if you're bored on a weekend, there's probably some kind of, organization that's putting on an event, or there's people around you on campus all the time. So having like organized events all the time was really convenient. And having to kind of figure out my own things to do and excuses to see people is a little bit more difficult.
So then what do you miss most if you had to pick one thing about South?
Oh, I miss so many things about South. I miss living on campus, to be honest. I know a lot of people choose not to live on campus, but it
Yeah.
was so much fun for me. I mean, I lived in my sorority house, so I feel like that's very different than like regular campus housing can be. But living with like 20 of my friends all the time, um, and like, I had the opportunity to go to my own room and be myself if I wanted to. But just having kind of that community aspect all the time. Now I live in an apartment complex where I don't even know my own neighbors. So definitely not as fun.
Mhm. So we already talked about this a little bit, but more in your life aspect instead of your job aspect. How did your experiences at South prepare you for the real world?
So well. My experiences at South definitely taught me a lot of networking, being super involved in clubs and things like Jag Media, where we went to professional conferences and met a lot of new people. The ability to just kind of like go out into a social setting and not feel completely awkward all the time was super helpful. I feel like I was really well socialized at South. Um, so being able to find new things to do and meet new people and have that connection of being a South grad when I meet somebody has definitely prepared me for kind of life after graduation. Um, and I still go to a lot of South events. So like being an alum on that side of things has been really cool. And kind of gives you the opportunity again to meet people and network and find out new things that you can, get involved in after graduation. So I think South definitely sets you up well for kind of how to survive life after college.
Do you meet a lot of other South grads in your day-to-day life?
All the time, all the time. Especially working with kind of a staple organization in Mobile. I meet so many South graduates who either work for the city or at the Chamber of Commerce, or I go to a lot of events at things like that. So it's cool how many people who went to South stay in Mobile, and I get the opportunity to meet a lot of them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about. I guess I didn't realize that so many people stayed. I have such this mindset of when I graduate, I need to go. So I didn't
Mhm.
realize that so many people stay here.
Yeah, well, and it's funny for me because I'm from Rhode Island originally, so I never planned on staying here. Um, and then I came down, and a lot of people from Mobile go to South too. So it's not even necessarily them staying here, it's that this is their home. They've always been here. And the cool thing about a lot of Mobilians is that they're so proud to be here, and I love that. Um, I left my home state. I love it, but I picked up and left. So the people who are like born and raised, super proud to be Mobilians, go Jags all the time, love meeting them.
Do you think it was easier starting a real life job staying in the same city so that you didn't have to move to a whole new place and learn it again?
I think that did make it a little bit easier. It's kind of funny though because it's not like I work with anybody I went to school with. I'm the youngest person at my office, and all of them have been working there for at least a few years. So it didn't necessarily work wise make a difference that I was still in Mobile, other than the fact that I got to start kind of right away. But I think staying in Mobile and still having some of my college friends around for like after work and being able to maintain that social aspect without being super far away from everybody that I just spent 4 years with, that definitely made it easier at the end of the day to come home and still have familiar faces around.
Do you think you're treated any differently for being the youngest person in the office?
Absolutely. Not so much by my coworkers, but a lot of people that I meet at other work functions or with other companies and organizations that we work with. It's really hard being 22 and in a director's position. I've dealt with it a lot. I actually get really self-conscious about it, I feel like, and kind of insecure about it. But I've just kind of had to keep telling myself that I'm in the position that I'm in for a reason, and I wouldn't have my job if I wasn't qualified. And so people treating you different just because you're younger, you're always going to be the youngest person at some point. Like when you graduate college and you're in your first couple years of work, you're the newest person in your field. So I don't think it affects my job, but I think it definitely affects the way that people see me sometimes.
Do you think they would take you more seriously if you were like 25?
Maybe. It's hard to tell a lot.
Do you think it has
I,
anything to do with being in your first year or because it's your age? Like, what do you
I
think?
think it's definitely more my age
Okay.
than how many years of experience I have because, I worked with Jag Media for 2 years before I was in this position. So I have 2 years of experience in a big marketing position, working with all of our student media. And I know what I'm doing, and I'm definitely qualified for my job. But people hear 22 and they are like, oh, you're just a child. So it's come up in meetings where people are like, oh, you're a kid. And I'm like, no, I'm fully qualified to be here. So I think it's definitely more of an age thing than a newbie thing.
How would you suggest to other people who also may be dealing with the age thing on how to be okay with it and deal with it and prove that you're good enough to be there?
I think it has to just you have to let it brush off and just prove that you know what you're talking about and be confident. I think confidence can make someone seem a lot more mature and older than they are. So if you act like a child, people are going to treat you like a child. And if you act qualified and like you're supposed to be here, then they're going to believe you. So even if they make that snap judgment when they hear how old you are, just prove that that part doesn't matter as much as your job experience and your willingness to be in your field. And they'll forget how old you are by the end of the conversation, hopefully.
Hmm. So then what advice would you have for anyone who is either graduating right now because it's graduation season or going to graduate in a year or something like that? What advice would you have for them trying to find a job?
I would say just be really persistent. It can be really hard, especially right now with everything that's going on, to find an open position. Sometimes people aren't posting positions, but they're still willing to take someone on. So even if you don't see a job listing, it doesn't hurt to just reach out if it's somewhere you really want to work anyway. My job wasn't actually open and available when I kind of showed that I was interested in it. I just walked down to my boss's office and I said, hey, I know our marketing director is leaving. I know I haven't been here that long, but I'm interested in the position if you think I'm qualified for it. So watch me during my internship and let me know what you think. So it worked out. It can be horrifying. And also, I think you don't have to take the first job offer you get. I think a lot of people get stuck in jobs that they're overqualified for or that they hate. Um, Turning down a job offer, can make you feel awesome. As long as you have other options and you know that that's not a good job for you. I wouldn't just go down turning down every job offer you get, but you don't have to take a position just because it's offered to you and feel like you're kind of backed into a corner. I think people just need to be more confident in their abilities and go after what you want, and you'll make it. It might take longer than you thought, but it works out.
What are your thoughts on negotiating your first salary?
That can be really intimidating. And I totally understand um, why people kind of don't do it. um, for me, I think it's a little different of a situation since I work for a nonprofit and we give as much of our money as we can to the scholarships that we provide for girls. So my salary wasn't super negotiable, but I never think it hurts to ask. It's not going to make you look greedy or, I feel like there's a really bad connotation that comes with asking for too much. But if you're not happy with the salary, then ask for more. Like sometimes people are just lowballing you to see if they can get away with spending less on you when they do have the funds to give you a higher salary. So it never hurts to ask as long as you do it respectfully.
With that, I think this is why people sort of run into the fear of asking for a higher salary. What would you say to somebody who's maybe feeling a bit of imposter syndrome, or the feeling of you're always replaceable? There's always somebody else who can come in. What would you say to somebody who's feeling that?
That is so common. Imposter syndrome, absolutely. There have been times where I kind of wonder why I'm in the position that I am and how I was able to get a job straight out of college. And, that shouldn't be happening to me. That should be happening to somebody else. And I feel like you really just have to kind of stay in check with, what did I do to get here? Why am I qualified for this job? I think having an updated resume kind of really helps. If you can look at on paper all the reasons why you deserve everything in your dream job, then you can say, you know what, this is what I've worked for and this is what I'm qualified for. So yeah, I'm going to go after it and I'm going to get it and I'm going to negotiate a better salary and I'm going to take a higher position. So I think just kind of having a little check-in with yourself can kind of help, because I've dealt with that for sure.
Are you doing what you thought you would be doing, like your junior year or even your freshman year of college?
No. When I started college, I was a psychology major,
Wow. Okay.
very different from what I'm doing now. And then I changed to communication my sophomore year. I think the running theme was just that I'm a people person,
Mhm.
which makes total sense for where I'm at now. Um, so I don't necessarily think it's what I thought I would be doing, but looking back, it makes a lot of sense. I work with amazing volunteers every single day. I talk to a ton of people, girls from across the country, volunteers from across the country. I get to work with the media a lot. So that broadcast journalism aspect of um, me, I always knew that I wanted to work in the media, but I didn't necessarily want to kind of be on the reporting end of things. So I think having that media relations aspect as a giant part of my job kind of fits that picture of what I wanted to do really well. It just took a couple steps to get there.
Mhm. So this might be a little more personal, but I feel like other people probably feel the same way. I have this image in my mind of exactly what I want to do. And when I started college, I knew what I wanted to do. And I'm 2 years in and I still have the same image. So I have this thought of I have to do exactly that, or I can't be happy, or it's not going to be enough. But in your situation, I mean, you're not doing exactly what you thought you'd do either. So what would you say to that?
I think I was the same way, when I first started, and even after I changed paths, I was like, okay, I'm changing my major. This is what I'm doing now. I'm going to be a reporter. I'm going to work in, a big news station. And that's not what I did at all. But I'm way more happy than I think I would be if I had followed that like really strict path. Some people end up being super happy in exactly what they planned for. I think you just kind of have to roll with the punches a little bit. So things can change if you want them to. And I think that's another big part of it. If you know exactly what you want to do, get an internship, make sure you get some actual experience doing it so that you're positive it's what you want to do, and then go for it. So I think plans are always adjustable. So if you think there's only one path for you, there might be, but I don't think it's any reason to freak out if it happens to go another way. If you are applying for a ton of jobs and it's just not working, then apply for something adjacent to that. So if it's something that might still involve aspects of your dream job and you can still be happy while you're doing it, but it's a stepping stone on the way to that, it's your first job. It doesn't mean you're going to be stuck there forever and you're not going to be happy. So I think like giving up a little bit of control is really important. Nobody's going to be in their absolute end goal dream job straight out of college.
Yeah.
You have to have stepping stones.
Yeah, we more started getting into my personal fears, but I'm sure other people feel the same way.
No, I mean, I was totally the same way. It's you get out and you're like, I'm an adult now. This is what I'm doing forever. But everything changes. You never know what's going to happen. You never know if a job opportunity is going to come up in a year or 6 months. My roommate hated her first job and quit in like a couple months and now has a job that she absolutely loves. But that first job helped her get the second job. So it all works out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today about all this. I'm sure it helped more people than just me.
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's post-grad life is really weird. So I think if anybody can hear from someone who like struggled with it really hard and then came out the other end perfectly fine, there's hope.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
I'm glad I got to talk to you today, and I wish you well in everything that you're doing.
Yeah, you too. I hope that, you're ready for senior year, right?
Oh, I'm going to be a junior.
Oh, you
I
have so
know.
much time.
I know.
Use it well.
Scared.
Well, I wish you the best and good luck with the rest of your interviews. And this whole series, I think, is going super well. So happy quarantine. Hopefully, we'll be able to do actual in-person interviews soon.
Yes, hopefully. Well, thank you for doing this. Bye.
Yeah.